All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Deathsie Deconstructed. Today I wanted to take some time to kind of break down the format and provide you a primer for March of the Machine draft, and this also kind of branches out to Sealed as well. So I will touch on Sealed a little bit. The Arena Open is coming up this weekend, so I think that that's very valuable. And it's been a very, very interesting set. If you guys remember, in the beginning of the format, I had played the Early Access event. I played about 6 hours of that. And in the beginning, I really thought that this was not going to be a good limited format. I thought that this format was going to be a format that was curated for EDH players. And after playing with the format more and understanding what the format's really, really about, I have been blown away by the sheer complexity, the fun, the depth of the format. And I think that a lot of people don't agree with me on this. They kind of, some people like Amaz and Louis Scott Vargas, they kind of figured it out before I did. They, here LSV says, I'm close to calling March of the Machines my favorite draft set of all time. It's got incredibly range and great gameplay. And I was like, what in the world are they on about? Are we playing the same draft format? I really didn't see what people were talking about. A lot of the times I feel like LSV and Amaz, they have very hot takes. I'm not saying that my takes aren't hot as well, but, they usually are very hyperbolic, and, it's hard to tell, whether they're, how accurate or how honest they are in a way about their reactions. And I have come to actually agree with them as well. This is up there with Ikoria and Kaldheim for me, and it's also up there kind of with the War of the Spark. I think War of the Spark is another controversial one. It's a set that people didn't really understand, even until the very end. People don't really understand it. I actually ended up doing an interview with Dave Gumfries. If you guys haven't checked that out, it is on my YouTube as well. It's a video right before this one. So please do check that out. That was a very great interview, kind of picking Dave's mind on how he got to this format and how he designed all of these great formats, like the ones I just mentioned. A lot of them are my favorite. So Materialist has gotten a huge update after I kind of realized what this format was about. And you can check this out at deathsie.com, or it's also linked below the stream as well. So this is the update of what I like in the format, of my card analysis, and I think it's about 95 to 99% correct. So this is basically where I'm at now. You can use that as a free resource. If you guys do like my content, both the interview content, the videos, my drafts, everything what I do, please check out my Patreon. My Patreon is up now. This will be where all of my new tier lists, actually all of the tier lists available at Magic Arena. Of course, that's on Magic Arena, and you'll also be able to download them, and you'll be able to make your own tier list as well. So you'll be able to make your own tier list. That is something that we've worked really, really hard on. So please do check that out. Any sort of support goes a really long way. So this format is very much a format that is between two different philosophies. Now, one philosophy is an attacking strategy. So this is what people would say is okay, my opponent's life total is the most important thing, and we want to reduce our opponent's life total to 0. And this is what I was on at first. I thought the battles were insignificant. It actually wasn't that important to flip battles. Battles were just there, and I didn't really understand it. Now, I actually agree with Max Mick. Max Mick, a really, really high-level youngin' Magic the Gathering player. Max actually acknowledged very early that battles are format warping. Even in games where none are played, their existence shapes how you should be drafting, building, and playing. Ben Stark also came to this conclusion as well. First thoughts on March of the Machine: they may have went too far with these invasions. I know it's good. I know it's hard to balance new card type. You want them to matter, but they seem way too good. And I was like, wow. It didn't even seem like battles were that important to me. Battles were just there, sometimes you'll flip it, sometimes they don't. Most of them they didn't, I felt. But I have now come to believe that they are correct, and actually this format for me is not about life total. It's not about damage to the face. it's about these battles. And the reason for that is that the moment you start flipping battles, you just snowball out of control. And these decks that are trying to attack life total, that you're just trying to play like the bread and butter decks, and you're just trying to curve out, play your 2-color aggro deck, it likely doesn't work, because the moment your opponent flips a battle, then you get into the spot where if you can't kill them, you just get outvalued. You just get outclassed, and your cards just don't matter anymore. So it's very hard to have evasion in this format. Sometimes you'll have a card like Tetsuko. Tetsuko will allow your deck, and it's actually quite difficult, because Tetsuko will have like, you will need to have these decks that have like double Tetsuko in order to actually like have this sort of inevitability, and you have like these decks that you know, can finish off the game later on. For the most part, the games don't end like that. And so there's a really huge like play versus draw dynamic in the format, because the person who's on the play not only reduces the effectiveness of your opponent's aggression, but they also get to flip the battles first and snowball out of control that way. So some of the cards I wanted to go over, a card like Evasion of Eldraine. This was a card that didn't really make that much sense to me in the beginning. You know, it just looks like a Mind Rod, and Mind Rods are kind of whatever and limited anyways. But I have come to believe that actually Evasion of Eldraine is actually one of the best uncommons in the format, which might be really crazy to say. But the format's all about like this sort of advantage and card advantage, and even threatening to flip Evasion of Eldraine, just getting this very unsuspecting card that is Prickle Fairies. It goes such a long way in this format. A lot of times I will be in a spot where it'll be like, all right, I think I have won this game, but if my opponent has Evasion of Eldraine, I actually lose, because, you know, you need these cards, you need to have the card advantage, and Evasion of Eldraine does exactly that. Now, the other important cards in the format are cards that get you on the board very, very fast, and also cards that allow you to not only pressure battles to give you board advantage, but also cards that keep you alive. So Blight Reaper Thallid, just one of the best cards in the format. Black is actually very, very strong. Black is not that deep, however, so it's kind of weird. But if you can get these really, really good black cards, then you're really, really in a good spot. So this is one of the best cards. You play it on 2, you threaten to flip it on 3. If your opponent leaves up a mana to try to interact with it, you just play something else. And it puts you in a very, very good spot. You try to flip it later. Another card here is Captive Weird, 1 mana, 1/3 defender. So this allows you to survive. It blocks like a bunch of the creatures in the format, and combat tricks are not that prevalent in the format either. So Captive Weird, this being able to be an early game card that blocks your opponent's 2-drops and even 1-drops as well. Being able to flip, give you card advantage, and being able to attack immediately as a reasonable sized thing, all for basically 3 mana for the flip cost. Extremely, extremely powerful. Now, other cards, this is one of the best commons in the set, Preening Champion. 2 mana, 2/2 makes a 1/1. This is good with Convoke cards, and it's also just good at pressuring battles. So one of the cards I actually have as S tier in the format, but one of the most powerful cards actually, this card, which is kind of unbelievable to be honest, Evasion of Amonkhet. Evasion of Amonkhet, just kind of showcasing how strong blue and also black is in the format. This, 3 mana, enters the battlefield. Each player mills 3, then each opponent discards a card and you draw a card. So again, looks very unsuspecting, but the threat of flipping this battle, being able to get a 4/4 that copies something in the graveyard, and there's so many powerful cards in this format that have really, really good keywords. Even this copying like a Preening Champion puts you in an insanely good spot. So, this Evasion, just one of the best cards in the format, and showcasing the sort of reason why like just damage-based strategies don't work, because you're trying to kill your opponent, and then actually your board is tapped out, and your opponent's actually attacking the battle instead. This sort of difference in philosophy of the set, you just basically immediately lose the game. So this is a card that is about card advantage. It's about battle board presence, and it's about just gaining value and stopping your opponent's aggression in a way as well. So one more card that I wanted to emphasize on, card like Herbology Instructor. This is exactly in the same way that Blight Reaper Thallid and Captive Weird are good. It's a card that not only stabilizes your life total a little bit, making your opponent really hard to kill you, but also it's a good early blocker, and it threatens to flip and get you the board as well. So these are really, really cool. One of the archetypes in the format that I am really high on is this very weird archetype with Rada. So Rada, let's go ahead and take a look at this card. Rada is a very unsuspecting card in the format. I kind of didn't really know why it was here, but one of the best archetypes in the format for me is actually this 2-color, like this base red-green deck that actually uses cards that are not very interesting, to be honest. Cards like Thrashing Frontliner, and cards like where's this card here? War Train Slasher. So you're essentially a base red-green deck, right? With Thrashing Frontliner and cards like War Train Slasher. Cards are actually not that good if you're just attacking your opponent's life total. However, if you're playing battles, these cards become insanely rated. You know, a 2-mana 3/3 trample that is pressuring a battle. This thing that basically just takes down battles. It is just, wow. You know, being able to be like this base red-green deck, and then you play these cards like Blighted Burgeoning. This was a card that actually Numat the Nummy, that Kenji was on very, very highly. Blighted Burgeoning. This basically allows you to play a base green deck, and sometimes even not a base green deck, but you're allowed to splash all of your bombs, all the rares that come by your way. And you get into this situation where like your deck is just so packed with value, and it becomes this value battle. You know, I think that's the key of the format. This like value battle type format, and the gameplay of this format is actually insanely complicated. I have never seen a set that was so complex in technical play. You know, I was joking around that this set needs needs multiple PhD level mathematicians and scientists to figure out all the implications of a board state. So it's a format that is very hard to play in paper, I think, so hard to keep track of it. And in paper, like, you'll miss a lot of the interactions as well because cards aren't highlighted and stuff like that. But like, look at this board state in this format. I'm a 5-color Niv Mizzet deck, and I have like Igna and Asikia, which taps all my creatures can tap for mana, and then I'm playing cards like Agar, drawing a card off of Igna and Asikia. And then, basically the rest of the deck, in order to survive, I have cards like Stasis Field and cards like Disturbing Conversion. So these cards, again, they look so unassuming, but there's also like this sort of mill element to the format as well. So cards like Disturbing Conversion, in any other draft format, you look at this card and this card's like garbage, right? But in this format, you just need to survive. You need to like basically, you need to manage board and combat in a way that stops your opponent from killing you, stops your opponent from flipping battles, and you even have this mill element to the deck. So another card that I'm really high on is actually Halo Charge Scab. This card allows you to like get advantage and also mill your opponent while putting reasonable sized bodies on the board. So if you have like bombs like C-Double, if you have bombs like Breach the Multiverse, even just like removal spells like Final Flourish, Halo Charge Scab goes a really, really long way. So this format is a very, very good draft format. And one of the things I wanted to talk about here is actually the drafting portion. So the drafting portion is very complicated. Now, I guess I can pull up one of my drafts here. And what I wanted to emphasize on is what it means to be drafting this format correctly. So every single seat is actually going to be different. And this format, this format is actually a format that you really, really need to draft your seat correctly. And this is a format that is all about reading your seat well and being able to optimize your seat. So what that means is that sometimes your seat is going to be the 5-color seat, like the 5-color seat, the deck that I was talking about, that is trying to utilize Blighted Burgeoning, trying to utilize all of the most powerful cards in your deck. And then other seats are actually just going to be your normal 2-color attacking deck. So sometimes that'll be a Rakdos deck. Sometimes that'll be a deck that Sometimes that'll be like your blue-white Knights deck, and other times it'll be like, I don't know, sometimes even a black-white deck, right? With Sculpted Perfection, and cards like Norn's Inquisitor, just some of these really, really highly pushed cards that have an insane rate. Now, being able to acknowledge what seat you're in is going to be the most important thing in the format. So this is not a format where, like this pack, for example, you know, obviously this rare is very good, Archpriest of Shadows. This is not a format where you can just take like the best, take like the cards to force an archetype. You have to read the seat extremely well. So most of it, the best way to do it is power. Focus on the power and follow the power. It's almost like rare drafting in a way. And you want to try to draft your seat the best as possible. So here I pick an Archpriest of Shadows. And then now we get into the spot where it's like, all right, well, you could pick like a Realmbreaker's Grasp, which is just a very good card in white. But actually what you want to do, in my opinion, is pick up cards like Mirror Shield Hoplite, Botanical Brawler. Skittering Surveyor is like a little bit underwhelming in this format, even though you do need mana fixing. I would not take Skittering Surveyor here. Sunblessed Guardian, Agar don't really do much, and Storm Sculptor doesn't do much. So I think the correct pick in this format is actually very strange. You should pick Mirror Shield Hoplite or Brawler. Mirror Shield Hoplite, you have some synergy with Archpriest of Shadows, and it gives you direction, right? So let's see what I pick here. Oh, I actually did pick Skittering Surveyor. All right, so my thoughts have changed in the format since then. But a lot of these companions are actually very, very good as well. Now, people will be like, oh, Lutree's not that good in the format, Gigantha's not that good. And I agree, actually. Like, the cards are not that good per se, but it depends on your seat. So, like, you don't want to just, like, force the Lutree, you don't want to force the Gigantha. Here in this spot, you know, there's not really much anything else. You can pick Aetherblade Agent, but again, I don't think that's a way to draft the format. Aetherblade Agent is good, don't get me wrong, but you want to go for the high power level stuff, so you should pick Gigantha here. So yeah, so we pick up Gigantha here. Now, the next pack, there's some good cards as well. Moloch and the Zumi Freewheeler, not bad. Unseal the Necropolis, another example of a card that's good, but you can't just pick it here. I think you have to pick Freewheeler, Moloch, or even the Swiftwater Cliffs to give you potential for other things. So I end up picking a Moloch here, and you can be like, okay, well, the deck looks kind of crazy. How in the world is this going to work? I see another Mirror Shield Hoplite here. This is a format where you actually need to keep in mind the cards that can come back, and you will get a very good idea, especially after pack 1, about what other people's philosophies are in the draft format. So, you know, depending on what comes back, we will get an idea of like what correct picks will look like later on in the draft format, and we'll try to wheel cards more than other formats, right? So let's go ahead and fast forward here. Let's fast forward to basically pack 2 here. So let's go ahead and fast forward here to pack 2 and see what is coming back. So actually, I ended up pack 1 with double Mirror Shield Hoplite. Now, my incentive in this draft is actually to probably focus to see if I can leverage battles in a way, and see if I want to be red-white base or if I want to be a 5-color deck. So this is why the draft format is so hard. And so after wheeling the Mirror Shield Hoplite here, I kind of understand that that the table is likely not red-white, right? The table is likely not red-white, so I do have a big incentive to be this red-white battles deck. Sorry, not battles deck, backup deck. And normally that's not a deck, right? But now that I have double Mirror Shield Hoplite, I can actually build around it. I end up getting an Omnath here. You know, a lot of what I was doing in this format was limit testing, just seeing how far I can build my decks and how greedy I could be. So the idea here is that actually companioning Gigantha means that Gigantha can tap, add mana, and cast an Omnath. So obviously this is not like the most competitive thing, but I wanted to see if it was possible, and I think the answer is that it is possible. So depending on how many battles you get, depending on what your deck looks like, is actually going to basically shape what the power and what the goal of your deck is. So, you know, check out my VODs on Twitch. I will be uploading a lot of drafts here on YouTube as well. So please do hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. Share with your friends, and we will show you exactly what this format's about. So one last thing I wanted to talk about before we end the video is sealed. So sealed is actually a very wild animal, because sealed in this format, especially with the Multiverse Legends cards available in packs, sometimes you have these pools that have what? You have like 6 rares and an additional like 3, sometimes 4 rares. So you'll have like 9 to 10 rares in your draft. And so it becomes even more true that you want to be just building these decks that are smooth, yet also just are trying to play all of your best cards. In sealed, it's very, very difficult. You know, you just want to follow your rares, but you also need to make sure that your deck is functional. So your curve also matters. Like, you can't just play these decks that don't have 2-drops, that don't have interaction. So sealed is going to exemplify. It's going to be even more true that the format is a sort of very high value type format. And very rarely will you be able to get a deck in sealed that is just your 2-color deck that goes under your opponent's deck. Like, you kind of can't do it. You kind of just can't do it. So you need to try to greed as much as possible while also having a good curve and making sure that your cards are castable. It's going to be a lot riskier than other draft formats. You're not going to have a deck that, is maybe as smooth as other draft formats, but this is how you be successful in sealed. Because again, you try to go under your opponent flips a battle, you get outclassed, and you just can't win. It happens all the time. Your normal traditional aggro deck with like creatures and combat tricks is not going to get there in this format. So yeah, let me know below the video if you agree with me, if you have any if you have any qualms about the way that I have claimed the format to be. And it's a very, very interesting format. I've been having a lot of fun. If you haven't been drafting this format that much, and you have been like kind of not feeling the format, I recommend that you check out my tier list at Deathsie.com, and also you try this new philosophy in drafting. And I think that you'll be very surprised, especially the technical play of it. It's extremely complicated. It will make you a better Magic the Gathering player, and I promise you that there's a lot more fun to be had in this format. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll have some new YouTube videos up for you soon.